Hey there, Jensen Vars here. In this video I'm gonna share about a game session I had with a friend where we played without a game master. And how we did it, well, this is what we're gonna explore, and I hope you like it, learn something, perhaps get some inspiration for your own games with your friends, and probably use the same techniques if you want to play just by yourself. Let's get going. So we sit down and we said, okay, let's play. But how and why and how are gonna we do it? So we just sit together and say, okay, first let's decide what we're gonna play. And we chose Fallout D20, the 2D20 game by Modifius. Why? Because we were both familiar with the system, and it's a game that has some lore in it. So whenever we would get stuck, we could have plenty of information to pull from, and it would be a bit less daunting to come up with everything. So that helped a lot because we say, okay, we know in which setting we're gonna play. If we need any help at any point in time, we would count with a map, we would be able to pull inspiration from there, and we have an RPG system that comes with a setting itself, so we could also pull random encounters and stuff from there. What we did next was, okay, now that we know the system, how do we play? What is the game gonna be about? And what we did is open the game unfolding machine. Why? Because this resource that I have published, and I really encourage you guys to take a look at it, helps you creating a game seed, like coming up with something on the fly that you don't necessarily have to go instead and play with a pre-written adventure. Let's bring something quickly to play, and this is what the game seeding section gives. How did we do this? We said, okay, there are 8 tables in total to generate a game seed in Game Unfolding Machine. We would roll each one of us in one table, make an interpretation of it. The next table would the other person roll on it, and they would read the second point, and we would take notes and then come up with a game and idea. So how it works, the first 2 tables on Game Unfolding Machine are about the world truths. First is where we rolled, it's like the location archetype where the adventure would take place. In this case, we rolled Captive 19. We are using Foundry, by the way, which has a very nice Fallout system. I rolled, I think she rolled Captive 19, and then she said, okay, we begin Captive as part of some raiders. We were doing a job or something and we got busted. That's it. We wrote down that piece and say, okay, let's go with the next one. Next one, I rolled the world truth number 2. I think I came up with Innocence, an endangered tribe, species, creature, or some vulnerable group. That was my turn. I read it as like there's a family of ghouls which are being the target of these raiders for some reason, and they are in danger. So our characters are somehow involved in rescuing or helping some ghoul family faction. Next point, we would say, okay, let's begin with the plot seed. We generated a plot hook. The plot hook, I think it was... if I remember correctly, it was a terrible event related to the world truth. So we rolled a 10 here, and we say the world truth is the point previously, the fact of that there's a ghoul family in trouble, and her interpretation, my friend's interpretation, was that there is a war between the raider factions, and they fight over finding those ghouls. So that would put the ghouls in the middle of another faction's conflict, and we would be also busted in between, our characters themselves. Then we proceeded with the mission. The mission was to, if I remember correctly, we revealed rescue someone from trouble. Then we said there is someone actually in trouble right now, which we said, okay, there is someone who knows about these ghouls, and they are also captive somewhere else, so we need to rescue them in order to know more, and so on. So each of us would roll on one of these tables. Then it was with the motivation, then an initial lead. I think the initial lead was that captured person knew something. I think we rolled 13, which is like we have a prisoner who won't talk, and that's how we came up with this VIP person who was also a prisoner from the same camp, and who won't talk. For some reason, we came up with the fact that these prisoners would have his tongue cut, so he would not be able to speak. For this reason, he knows something very important for the story, and somebody decided that they should not talk, unfortunately. Very Fallout, I guess, and so on. Then we said, okay, how do we go from there? We have a plot seed. What we did next was to create the characters. Now we said, okay, we know what's going on. It's all about a conflict between raiders. There's a Google family, important family. We also rolled some location details, having fun in this process. It turned out it was some technology related location. So we say, okay, these ghouls must be related to General Atomic, and generated all the details about the world, right? So then we said, okay, who are our characters gonna be? And we said, okay, it's gonna be 2 mercenaries, and we agreed on that. We each created the characters they would want to play. I played a rogue with sneaky features, and in this case, she played tough character, bodybuilder, and they knew each other because they were hired by the ghouls to help them in this quest. But of course, we begin busted, so we need to escape. After everything was set, what we proceeded with was actually the plot nodes. This is a part of Plot Unfolding Machine, which takes place in the session 0, or let's say before you start the game. It's like elements of the story that we would like to see going on or appearing in the game. And this is an important part because it sets some of those expectations. So this is part of Plot Unfolding Machine version 8, which is what we're gonna use here as a GM emulator. I explained my friend that we will be both players, and Plot Unfolding Machine would be our GM taking care of the decisions. So we both are neutral to an external mechanic taking the important decisions. Of course, we would be interpreting these answers, but a Game Master emulation would be the target of our questions, yes or no questions, or other kind of questions. But before we got into playing, we need to set the plot nodes as it says. And this, what we did is go through all of them. There are 4 plot nodes types: game or world elements, meaningful encounters, things to be found, and pending questions. We said, okay, let's draft a few. It doesn't have to be something very detailed. So we began with the game questions, game and world elements, and we said, okay, there is radiation in this world, there is a raider war going on, there is a likelihood of a radiation storm, because why not? We thought about that as a possibility. We also included the element of remembering to eat and sleep, so we could make the game about surviving as well. And we also put as the 5th one is like a randomizer from the book. So we said, okay, if this lands, whenever it turns, we go to the book to pull an idea from. So it's like a game element that we say, okay, let's use this randomizer from the Fallout book and put it here, so we don't have to think about when to use it and so on. For the meaningful encounters, we said, okay, there's this raider tribes, we gave them a name. There's the other tribe, which is like the one conflicting with it. The boosters would be the factions of raiders that would have captured us. There are the ghouls. These are also potential encounter. We might find them eventually in the game. There is a Vladimir. This is an NPC, the important character I talked about. And then there's an empty entry in case somebody comes that we don't know. For things to be found, we came up with other ideas. We did one entry. We took turns to come up with something. And as you can see, they are being pulled from the Game Unfolding Machine idea. So we used the plot seed generator to set up the context of the game. And as you can see, we are not spoiling ahead of the story or anything. We are just introducing elements that we know are going around the characters as the game begins. Things to be found is our equipment, because we are prisoners in the beginning, so we need to recover our equipment. The lost ghouls family that we need to find, an escape route, like a way out, and we left 2 entries empty in case we have to come or find something out, like new loot or whatever. Pending questions. This is relevant because it represents questions we have about the game, and we ask, like, why are the raiders fighting each other? We don't know, so we state that here. What is the scientist's expertise? Like, what are the ghouls developing? Why are they important? And we thought, okay, maybe they are developing a weapon or something. What is that weapon about? And why are they holding us alive? Why anybody wants us alive and they did not kill us as prisoners yet? And where is Vladimir, that important NPC we will be looking for? And that's it. With that, we filled in In this case, we did it in Foundry. Foundry has a Mythic GME tools that I developed, guys. You can load the lists around here. So you fill in this list that I was showing, and then what you do is roll them from this module that automates the dice rolling, so you don't have to use the PDF list if you have Foundry. And that's it. We went for the first scene. Let's see how we do that. What we did here is, since I know how plot unfolding machine works and the other players did not, I told them, okay, here are the oracles. Let's become familiar with what plot unfolding machine has to offer. The plot element nodes we introduced earlier, and there are two ways to play. Apart from typical role playing, right? When there is uncertainty or something happens that we are not sure what exactly or in which circumstance a situation goes, like to know a circumstance of a certain event, we can call the modified proposals. This will yield things like add hope or relief or add doubt or confusion as an example results. Or whenever we would get stuck for any reasons, like, okay, we go somewhere, but what's going on over there, we would use the random prompt. This random prompt would be, okay, play a skill challenge, give an answer to any of the pending questions, so it would pull from our own ideas of the game. So these are the main mechanics to play situation by situation. The rest would be the oracles. The yes or no are the most important ones by far. It's like, how do we ask questions? If there are any guards out there, do we find any steam pack? Does the defeated raider have any water on his pocket? We would not decide that ourselves. We delegate that to plot unfolding machine, and that's how we develop a story on the fly. The other oracles would answer things like, okay, if we meet someone new, how do we come up with someone? We roll on the someone oracle, which could be a political or reasonable person, or we would ask what are the riders doing when we escape, and then we roll an activity oracle, which would give something like they are preparing for something. So this would be evocative ideas. This way we delegate the GM responsibility to plot unfolding machine. Of course, we are the ones who interpret those answers and come up with the game that way. So the way we played with these oracles, and these oracles are part of plot unfolding machine, they are in the first 2 pages. These are the oracles. The way we did is like whenever a player would ask a question, let's say I am asking, hey, is there anyone outside the cell where we are prisoners? I would ask the question, roll on the oracle, but it's the other player, the second player in this case, who would interpret the answer to my question. Because there is a subjective question, for example, the subjective question says yes for now, and then maybe the other player will say, okay, there is a raider, but he's walking, so for now he's nearby, but he might go away sometime soon. So this kind of interpretations would be done crosswise. So if she asks a question, if the other player asks a question, and we use an oracle, it would be my turn to read that answer oracle. So and the game developed super fun. We filled in these plot nodes, we created the characters, and we played in Foundry. Here are some like screenshots I took from the game. Nothing fancy, but how we were using like Foundry, plot unfolding machine, and that's all we used. How it developed, we began in a cell, so we started asking questions. Like the other player, for example, she's playing a tough character, so she wanted to kick and bend one of these metal bars of this cell. So she rolled some skill challenges on the Foundry, on the Fallout system. And we asked questions to the oracles like, okay, how hard is that cell to break? And then I said, okay, we failed that roll. So then my character would like look for luck picks, but then we asked if that was even possible, if there was any luck to be picked, and then the oracle said no. So then we rolled a modified proposal because we got stuck, and the modified proposal said, okay, you have to make this situation more dramatic, which we read as, okay, we spent hours, we were hungry, we were thirsty, we were stuck, nobody would come to help us. So we role-played this situation, we talked to each other what to do, what not to do, until eventually we rolled a random prompt because we got stuck. It's like, okay, nothing works, we cannot escape. And it turned out the random prompt would bring the raiders to us. Then we asked how many are they, which is one of the oracle questions. How many is one of the oracle questions on the quantifiers. How many? And it turned out that there were 3 raiders. We ambushed them when they came to the cell. We could, let's say, as soon as they opened the lock, we jumped on them and we could escape that way. And we role-played the escape. We asked questions to the oracle. Hey, is anybody escaping? Is any raiders outside? Do we find our stuff? They didn't have our stuff with them, so we stole their equipment. And then as we escaped, we say, okay, now we have to infiltrate this camp of the raiders and look for Vladimir, which is the important NPC, which we couldn't find in time because one random prompt brought up this world element where there is a faction war between the raiders. And it turned out they were extracting Vladimir out of there, so we had to escape the camp, but we could ambush them later, so we could intercept this group and rescue Vladimir from one of the raiders' bands. We looked for food and other stuff in the middle, so it turned out really well, because none of us was the GM particularly. We delegated the important questions one at a time to the oracle. We made up other things as they made sense, and we advanced the story. And right away in one session we could prepare everything, create the characters, come up with a game idea with Game Unfolding Machine, and play using the oracle subplot of Unfolding Machine, which made sense as we use them. Of course, not always things are easy, but we just swap and come up with ideas and help each other. So guys, just wanted to share this story with you. Consider the idea of playing with someone else without a Game Master emulator. And I hope you enjoy, and do share if you ever did this. Did you ever play with other people without a Game Master? And would you consider doing that? Would be lovely to hear how that worked for you. And as solo players, you can also play this by yourself with exactly the same setup. Let me know what you think about this video, and I hope you liked it. Until the next one, bye bye.